Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and reviewing The Flash Season 5 Episode 13, otherwise entitled Goldfaced. And if you have not seen this episode, make sure you go and do so before you proceed with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. We'll be still here waiting for you when you get back. So I guess first major talking point about this episode is talking about the storyline going on with Sherlock and Nora. This was basically a fluff storyline, as I like to call it, which is basically when the Flash is just doing something basically purely for comedy, and basically Nora is starting to realise that Sherlock is on her case big time, so she needs to distract him. So how is she going to do that? By basically making him fall in love. So she does this, she takes him to Jitters, which is technically a continuity issue, because I thought we couldn't bring any version of Harrison Wells out into the public due to what happened to Earth 1 Harrison Wells, but whatever. Flash is very well versed in continuity issues. But anyway, she brings her out so he can come across this woman and fall in love with her. Now this woman is actually the same woman who he has married on every single Earth he's been to. So basically, you know, we've heard a lot this season Sherlock has all these ex-wives. We get to see all these ex-wives in this, and it turns out they're all the same woman, just but from different Earths. I think that's great. Like, it's so Sherlock. It's totally him. And what's really awesome as well is that the actress who plays her actually used to star with Tom Cavanaugh in another show, so that's like a nice little detail as well. And I really liked that, you know, they had this like council of exes, like the Council of Wells last season, so it was kind of like flipping the Wells thing on its head, which was fun. But anyway, Sherlock kind of messes it all up by basically, you know, saying everything he knows about her, even though he's never met this version of her in his life. And, you know, she's like, okay, well, you're a stalker, stop talking to me, which is a pretty normal reaction. And with that, it kind of just goes on, and he gets told that maybe he's not meant for a relationship, and, you know, all that, and he goes moping around for a bit. And then by the end, he meets up with her again, and they have a coffee again, and, you know, things are going well for them. So this is, I guess, Sherlock's new love interest that's going to distract him for a few episodes instead of tracking down Nora. And also what's interesting about this character is that she is a metahuman. We see at the end of the episode she's a metahuman. She opens the door of Jitters by herself, basically by what appear to be like wind-like powers. So she's kind of like controls wind, maybe. It's never really confirmed actually what her power is. You know, Sherlock just says she's a meta, so... And of course, if she's a meta, that means that Cicada, our big bad of the season, is going to be tracking her down. So this is now Sherlock's main mission, is instead of, you know, keeping an eye on Nora, he's going to be trying and protecting this character whose name is Renee, which is a bit annoying. You know, you're not quite Renee Ramirez yet, so let's all calm down here. But other than that, you know, this character of Renee is going to be protected by Sherlock from Cicada. So this storyline, like I say, it was pretty fluff. It was done pretty much for comedy. I don't know how far this is going to, you know, or how apparent this is going to be going forward. It was just something that they had to do, and that Nora had to do in order to get Sherlock off her case. Now, speaking of Cicada, Iris breaks into his house in this episode. Now, this was actually a really cool story. I liked this. We see Iris actually doing some journalism work once again. I have to say, I do feel bad for Candice Patton. She was promised so much journalism this season, and they've just given her barely anything. I mean, it has been slightly more than normal, but it's still not to the same level as it should be, and as we expect it, and as we and Candice were promised. But it was nice to see her actually doing some interviewing, trying to find out some information on Cicada. And then she actually finds out that he's living in his, I believe it was cousin's house, I think it was. So Iris breaks into his house, and she basically starts asking Cicada some questions. Basically, nothing relevant to the actual story and actual Cicada himself. She's basically playing coy in order to try and get something out of him. Now, this is also coming with some negatives, because Chris Klein, once again, who plays Cicada, is so over the top in the way he acts. And I was interested to see this episode because usually with Chris Klein, if he's just playing Orland Wire, like if he's just playing a normal guy, he comes across really likable actually, and really actually quite good. But then when he plays Cicada, he's so over the top, so trying so hard to be threatening and trying hard to be a villain. So I thought, well, in this episode, if he's just being himself, being interviewed by Iris, and he doesn't even know Iris, so, you know, why would he be like that? Maybe we get to see him be normal, and maybe, you know, we'd see some more levity to the grace theory. But no, it just is over the top, as he always is, and talks really slowly and really grouchy, and, you know, it's just a bit weird. I don't know why Chris Klein, I don't know if this is like Chris Klein, or if this is the direction, I'm not sure, but it's really quite distracting, and it needs to stop, because it makes him seem like such an over the top and unthreatening villain. But also, this leads to a real frustrating bit. This was almost a perfect story for Iris until basically she gets into a bit of a scrap with Cicada, stabs him, and then runs away, leaving him to get away once again. This was my problem with episode 11. Episode 11, they had the perfect chance to capture Cicada and stop him for good. Same thing happens in this episode. Iris stabs him, and literally 2 seconds later, Team Flash shows up to capture him, and he's gone because she ran away and left him. It's just so frustrating at this point that clearly Cicada is not a villain who should be able to carry this entire season. It's so evident at this point. I mean, it was made perfectly clear to me in episode 11, and this is just further evidence. Like, this guy should not be the villain. He's just, at least not anymore. He's clearly not got enough story because he just keeps getting away in all these miraculous ways, and it's ridiculous. Like I say, this was almost perfect for Iris, but then that final moment really just kicked it down the drain. Now, the main storyline in this episode was to do with Barry and Ralph, but trying to get a piece of technology, but in order to do that, they have to infiltrate an underground crime ring. I actually really liked this part of the episode. I thought it was going to be very silly, and it was silly, but I thought it was great. Actually, seeing Barry and Ralph as criminals was quite fun, and I have to say, I really enjoy it every time The Flash does this. Like, it's done it a couple times in the past where it's basically made Barry a criminal. Like, we had it last season in the prison arc. That was really cool. And in season 3, when he teamed up with Captain Cold at the end, that was really nice. So we get a little we get like another episode like that, which was really cool. And I have to say, I think Grant Gustin did a great job, especially because Grant Gustin has to do this really, like, intimidating villain speech at one point, and I think he pulled it off really well, honestly. I really thought he did a good job with that, and Hartley Sawyer, once again, is really good, as he always is. But seeing them as undercover criminals was cool. We also see that this gun is being produced, and Barry tries to put a stop to it. It's this gun that can basically blow holes in Kevlar, and basically it'd be the death of any CCPD member. So, obviously he tries to get rid of them, he tries to buy them all to take them off the streets. I don't know if this is... I have to feel like this is going to come back around at some point. Like, surely this is going to happen. Like, this is going to be something that they're going to have to deal with, because otherwise, why would you make such a big point out of it in this episode? Which does make me fear for somebody in the SCPD, like, or the CCPD. Like, could it be Joe? Could it be Captain Singh? Like, is somebody from the CCPD gonna die this season? Like, I feel like that's got to be a thing, given how they set this up. Then we also got the villain of Goldfaced. He was pretty good, I thought, for the most part. Pretty decent villain. Very well acted. He was a little bit silly towards the end. I thought he was really cool for the most part. It's the end fight between Barry, Ralph, and him that I found a bit silly. It got a bit too over the top. But speaking of over the top, the gunfight in this episode was brilliant, where Barry and Ralph just assault this entire place with, like, these stun guns. It was basically laser tag, and, you know, I've seen some people say that this scene went too far and this scene was not, it was too silly. Personally, I thought it was perfect. I loved it. I thought the music choice was fantastic. The way they were going around this facility, the camera work, the way it was being shot, the way it was filmed, I really enjoyed it. You know, it was a sense of fun that the Flash hasn't had this season. Like, the Flash this season really hasn't been that fun since the beginning of the season, so to see it just let loose a little bit and just to have this scene that's just purely fun, I personally really enjoyed. I thought it was a really good scene, and I thought it was just really funny. And, you know, like I say, this season has been a bit lacking on fun recently, so to have that, it was just a nice reminder that, yeah, this show can be really fun when it wants to be. And in the final scene, we see Nora talking to Eobard Thawne once again, and he says that, you know, after all this is sorted out, they can continue with their plans. So Eobard has a plan of some kind with Nora. We still don't know what this plan is. We still don't know what's going on with Nora and Eobard. You know, her working with the Reverse Flash. We don't know what's going on here. I'm getting a little bit tired of this mystery, if I'm honest. I'm getting a little bit tired of constantly being stringed along like this, because it's getting to the point now where nothing's happening in these episodes. Like, nothing has actually happened in the season since the end of the mid-season finale. So it's kind of getting annoying at this point. I kind of want something to happen so we can get through this, because this mystery, it's losing my interest, because, again, every single time we go back to 2049 with the Reverse Flash, it's just like we get the same scene over and over again, and I find it a bit annoying now. It's getting repetitive, it's getting frustrating. I think we need to reveal something so we can move on to the next mystery instead of just continuing on with this one, because it's getting a bit repetitive. Overall, though, while this episode is incredibly silly and kind of filler for the most part, I still really I actually had a good time with this episode. I won't lie, I enjoyed it. While I think the Sherlock and Nora stuff was pretty fluffy, I thought the Iris stuff was really good right up until the end. I really enjoyed all the Barry and Ralph stuff. I thought that was really good. All the stuff of them pretending to be criminals, the gunfight was brilliant. And like I say, just all the different elements of this episode, while they didn't all quite come together, I think for the most part it still delivered a really fun episode of The Flash. And again, fun is something that The Flash has been lacking as of late, so I appreciated that. And overall, yeah, not a bad episode in my books. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode of DC Central. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more DC content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. And I hope to see you guys again next time.